Thank you, Madam President. As a state senator, it's one of the most important jobs that we have in choosing judges and justices within the judiciary system. And particularly for me as a non-attorney, I value that role. It's an incredible learning experience for me as a member of the judiciary, but also as a member of this circle. I read the opinions of Justice Robinson, and one of the biggest compliments that I paid to him, beyond listening to him in the Judiciary Committee hearing and also spending time with him personally, was I complimented him on the tone and clarity of his opinions. I read through his opinions, and what I found in the way that he wrote was his tremendous clarity in describing the opinion and the law so that a non-attorney and people that are looking to utilize that as guidance could understand it. And he wrote in such a tone that made everybody feel as though the law was applicable but also understandable to them. And I found his reaction to be genuinely refreshing. He found such delight that he was able to communicate clearly and writing opinions that people, not just attorneys, not just justices, but the regular folks that they represent could understand. So I found that to be very interesting, and I found that to be very enlightening. The other point that we talked about was how he felt about the issue of recusal. He said, obviously, it's personal to each judge, but he raised some very important things that were valuable to me. He said he would want to take the litigant's perspective to ensure how would the litigant feel if they had a fair opportunity going into this case. The other point that he said, that people needed to have confidence in their judges. And they have to have the confidence that fairness was evident going into a court decision. And he said, and my understanding is the fact that if it was perceived that something was unfair, then we have already lost the issue of fairness and competence and a right to an opportunity to a fair trial. And that is important because he approached the recusal in respecting the law. And I think he paraphrased it by simply saying that the merits and the weight of each case is greater than any of our personal opinions. That was powerful because I want judges to give their best opinion based upon the law and the application of that law. And I want every individual that appeared before courts to have an appreciation that they had a fair chance into the discussion. So in his answer on the recusal, I found it very refreshing and engaging to offer that perspective. We moved on and we talked about his role as a Superior Court judge and moving up the steps within the judiciary system. And I found that to be a very important skill set to being Chief Justice. Not simply a justice, but to be a Chief Justice, the Chief Administrative Judge for our entire judiciary system. And he talked about not just simply the application of law, but also understanding that every mechanism within the court, from the clerks to the marshals to the people ensuring security and safety, they are all part of the judiciary system. And as an individual that went through the system, he understood everyone's role and importance. It cannot be dismissed that an individual with that kind of experience, that kind of an appreciation, that kind of understanding and leadership capability is what we need in a Chief Justice. I also asked him in regards to what he envisions his role as a Chief Justice to move us forward. And he struck something that was very different than what I've heard from a lot of other soon-to-be judges and potential justices on the Supreme Court. He talked about how we can teach young people to appreciate the law. He talked about with such great joy his experience in mock trials and meeting with kids and being able to educate and participate with a younger generation of possible lawyers to recognize that in our country, with the three equal branches of government, that the law can be applied equally and in a blind justice way to ensure that everyone has an opportunity to have a fair trial. And I found that to be interesting because I look for a Chief Justice with that kind of vision, that kind of leadership, to not only lead the Judiciary Department, but also to make law an aspiration for so many young people that can make a positive contribution. So for me, those are incredible qualities that I saw, not just as a justice, but for a Chief Justice that could lead us into the future on this. And for me, as I said earlier, I'm a non-attorney that serves on the Judiciary Committee and the great privilege to be in this circle. So for me, I take the nominations and the selections of our judges and justices very seriously. I know we have talked many a times in this circle with these round of judges about fiscal constraints. And I recognize them and I hear them. But for me, I vetted these individuals. Their credentials are beyond reproach from a standpoint of judicial competence. How could I say that they cannot sit on the court to dole out fairness, to give people an opportunity of justice? So that is one of the reasons why I continue to vote for these justices and judges that have been vetted. Because in this country and in this state, we have 3 separate branches of government. And we should never deny qualified, willing people that want to serve as justices and judges that opportunity. So that is why I continue to support them. But at the same time, I think as a legislative body, we have a responsibility to prioritize our funding to ensure that these judges are able to do the work that they do. And I think I want to compliment Representative Tong for using a phrase that I'll paraphrase that he used. Justice delayed is justice denied. And we cannot allow that to happen in our state. So I firmly support this nomination, as well as the other judges that we support. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you. Will you mark further?